And I'm kind of really surprised and upset that I'm saying that I enjoyed this movie, because when I first saw the trailer, I was like, ew, this seems like a movie-long ad for Tiffany's. It feels like a completely sponsored project where the sponsor is in the title of the movie. And I was just so ready to rip it apart for being this capitalist sellout project. And this is the type of movie I feel would be written by like an artificial intelligence or something, because it was so product integrated and sponsored. But then the movie ended up being good. So let's dissect that. Hello and welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel, where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Lenny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel. Subscribe if that's your vibe. It's the Christmas season, the holiday season. I've been a little MIA the past couple of weeks, but like most everyone else, I have been watching Christmas movies. And I'm not gonna lie, the first Christmas movie I watched this season was Falling for Christmas, and I had totally intended to make a video about it, and then I watched it and I kind of hated it. Everyone else I've talked to seems to have enjoyed it, but I just could not get myself to care about the characters, and I don't know how to critique a movie that isn't trying to be good. And it wasn't like bad enough to be terrible and fun to critique, like something like The Princess Switch, which I've critiqued before. You just cannot convince me that Falling for Christmas wasn't written by artificial intelligence. So today I did not want to talk about Falling for Christmas, and instead I want to talk about a movie I did enjoy called Something from Tiffany's on Amazon Prime. Starting with my usual question, is it worth watching? And as you may have gathered, yes, I do think Something from Tiffany's is worth watching. I feel like if you just like rom-coms in general, you would love this movie, but also if you love Christmas and Christmas combined with rom-coms, you will love it. I guess it turns out that sometimes more money equals great art or better art. You can hire good writers, you can hire good directors, good talent, which this movie had a lot of great acting in it. And it totally has a classic rom-com vibe, and it's actually more rom-com than Christmas. Like, it totally has the beautiful backdrop of New York City during the holidays and the vibe of Christmas, but a lot of the movie takes place actually in that week after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's. This isn't like your Hallmark or Lifetime type of Christmas movie. This is more of like a mainstream blockbuster flavor of Christmas romance. It has a really high production value, and I could totally see it fitting in theaters. And it has a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. I can't, the score is not helping my case that this is a decent movie, but as usual, critics usually don't rate rom-coms very highly because they are kind of formulaic and are just not the artsy cinema that, you know, critics are looking for in their consumption of media. But I do think for rom-com standards, this is great. There's no huge major twists to it that make it like totally weird or different for a Christmas romance. But honestly, just the writing and performance was so good that I didn't mind it being pretty formulaic. The characters felt like real people, and that's one of my favorite things to see, especially in rom-coms or other more feminine leaning media. If I can believe these characters are real life human beings, I'm all in. So let me move on and talk about the background of Something from Tiffany's. You can find it on Amazon Prime, as I mentioned, and it's actually created by Reese Witherspoon's production company, Hello Sunshine. And Something from Tiffany's is actually based on a book, which most of Reese's projects are based on books, so that's not that surprising. I expected it to be more like the brand approached Reese Witherspoon's company, or my theory is that Reese Witherspoon has like a working relationship with Tiffany's ever since she did Sweet Home Alabama way back in the day, and Tiffany's was like a big part of that movie as well. I can't really find if there's confirmation that Tiffany sponsored it, but usually if you see any kind of brand in a movie, it means the brand signed off on it at least. Usually they've paid to be there. And based on all of the slow shots of the products that we got in the movie and close-ups of the little blue bags and the little blue box and all the Tiffany staples, I think we can safely assume the movie was sponsored by Tiffany's. How that came about, I'm not sure. Since it was based on a book, it seems like maybe the project came about a little more organically. But nonetheless, Reese Witherspoon and her team delivered a pretty great advertisement for Tiffany's in this movie. And I hate that I'm saying this. I'm not happy to be praising capitalism like this, but here we are. The movie was just good. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. And the cast is star-studded, of course. We got Zoe Dutch, whatever her name is. I can never pronounce it. Zoe Dutch, who is carrying the rom-com genre on her little shoulders, giving us trash, treasure, and whatever the fuck not okay was. So she makes a great leading lady for rom-coms, and I just appreciate her for being down for rom-coms. And opposite her is Kendrick Sampson, who I was not that familiar with his other work, but he's been in Insecure, The Flash, and How to Get Away with Murder, among others. Also in the cast is Shay Mitchell, who needs no introduction. She was iconic on Pretty Little Liars. And also playing the little girl, because you always have to have a little girl in every Christmas movie. The little girl is played by Leah Jeffries, and I was so obsessed with her in this movie. When I looked into her in my research after, apparently she's the one who was cast in the reboot of Percy Jackson and that series for Disney Plus. And I remember there was like racist backlash, of course, whenever they cast like a person of color for a role that maybe was a white person in the past. The conservatives get angry. I don't watch Percy Jackson, I'm not that familiar, so forgive me if I'm getting some of that story wrong, but she was so good in this movie that I'm like so glad she is working in other things. She's perfect for a franchise. Like, I totally understand just from this performance why she's thriving, and I hope she continues to thrive. I hope she has a bright future ahead of her in acting, just because like Leah Jeffries made me like the little girl in a Christmas movie. Like, you know how impossible that is? Especially after watching Falling for Christmas and the poor girl in that movie. And I don't blame the actress, little girl, like, bless her heart, whatever. But she just seemed to be instructed to smile to the point of feeling demonic or something and soulless. And Leah Jeffries just brought such a humanity to the daughter of the man in a Christmas movie, which is such a tired character archetype that I'm so tired of, frankly. She was so funny, so real. She got to say the word ass at one point, so that's all I have to say. So let me go ahead and get into my discussion of the movie. When I did my research, I did see that it was shot in New York City during the holiday season last year in 2021. So that's really cool. I was wondering when I was watching it, because it did feel very real, very New York, very authentic, and I was kind of hoping like, oh, I hope this isn't just like a soundstage in LA where they're filming all of this. But no, they actually filmed on location in New York at Bryant Park is a big location they use. So it was really cute, and I have never been around New York City during the holidays, but now I can trust that this is kind of what it looks like. So in this movie, we start off with two separate heterosexual couples, and the men of the couples both go to Tiffany's on the same evening. Ethan and his daughter Daisy, the little girl of the Christmas movie, are shopping for an engagement ring for his girlfriend Vanessa. And the other man, Gary, is shopping for a Christmas present for his girlfriend Rachel. So one is an engagement ring, one is just like a basic Christmas present. And Gary is looking for something affordable, mind you. And this definitely feels like the most sponsored part of the whole movie, this beginning part where they are shopping at Tiffany's. You get a lot of information about the product, and I thought it was interesting how they used the two different men to show the range of clients that Tiffany's can serve. Whether you need a super expensive tens of thousands of dollars of an engagement ring, or you need an affordable $300 pair of earrings, Tiffany's got you covered. I personally did not know that Tiffany's even had engagement rings. I don't know if I hear about them around the engagement space very much. I associate Tiffany's with mostly like necklaces used to identify Lizzie McGuire in the Lizzie McGuire movie. I really do associate them with like necklaces and bracelets. and not engagement rings. And I also didn't know that Tiffany's had anything affordable. Like when he walked in and was like, what's the cheapest thing you have, basically, I was like, are you in the right store, sir? And by affordable, they do mean like $350 range. I think that's as affordable as you can get at Tiffany's. So the inciting incident happens when the two men leave Tiffany's with their items, and Gary, the one with the pair of earrings, gets hit by a taxi. And Ethan sees this and goes and helps give him first aid while the ambulance is on its way. And it is during this chaos that they end up switching items from Tiffany's. They switch their little blue bags that they make sure we see real up close. And they don't realize it in the moment, but we as the audience know that there is a serious mix-up going on. So Gary ends up going to the hospital, and they call his girlfriend Rachel. And Rachel's kind of our main character, leading lady. Of course, she's a baker, of course, and we're in New York City. It's frequent in Christmas movies for the woman to be a baker as a profession. I think it happened in Princess Switch. It's also a stereotype they kind of poke fun at in another Christmas movie I want to review, which is called A Hollywood Christmas. But anyway, so Rachel, our leading lady, visits Gary at the hospital, and as she's leaving the hospital, she runs into Ethan and Daisy, who are wanting to check in on Gary to see if he's okay, because they left the scene of the incident and weren't sure if he ended up okay. And this is Rachel and Ethan's meet cute moment, where they go have a bite at the hospital cafe, and they have pretty good banter with Daisy as well. Rachel actually invites Ethan to stop by her bakery or restaurant so that she can repay him for helping out Gary. Is it a little morally questionable that the two leads of this movie are in separate long-term relationships when they meet and fall in love, essentially? Maybe it's not that morally questionable, but with how cheating is punished in our society these days, I feel like it's a little bit sketch of a premise for them to almost emotionally cheat or toe the line of emotional cheating. I don't know, but let's just not think too hard about it. So on Christmas morning, the two women of the relationships open their gifts, and that's where the men realize sort of what's gone on. Ethan had meant to propose to Vanessa, his girlfriend, but when she opens it, it's just a pair of earrings, so he ends up not proposing, and he's just confused as to what happened and tries to figure out why. On the other end, Rachel opens her gift, and it's an engagement ring, and assumes Gary is proposing. And because Gary had just been hit by a taxi and suffered from some memory loss, he assumed he meant to propose as well and just goes with it. And so Rachel ends up engaged, and Ethan has to go figure out how to get his ring back. It's a very expensive ring, and he really got the raw end of the deal getting the cheap earrings. And so throughout the movie, we see the obstacles that each couple is facing. Each couple has their own issues. Starting with Ethan and Vanessa. Ethan works as a professor, but his dream is to write a second book. He tried writing a book before, but it totally flopped. And because he flopped with his first book, Vanessa's not supportive of him writing a second book. He also really wants to move back to New York. He loves it. And Vanessa, we see, hates New York City. What I failed to mention is that Ethan and Daisy and Vanessa are all in New York just for the holidays, for the week. They're vacationing, and they all live in LA. But Ethan does have these aspirations to move back to New York. They used to live in New York. And I gotta say, I'm on Shay Mitchell's / Vanessa's side about New York. I agree with her, liking LA much better than New York. It is just so cold. I can't with the cold, so it's all about that for me. Ethan and Vanessa's issues as a couple feel a lot more realistic and mature to like regular adult relationships to me. He's trying to pursue this book dream, but isn't telling her that he's meeting with a publisher or really wanting to move back and stuff, so he's just kind of keeping secrets from her. Our other couple, Rachel and Gary, have more obvious problems, I would say, to the point where I was actively rooting against them. Gary is a tattoo artist, meaning he's deviant. Just kidding, but he's like the least tattooed tattoo artist I've ever seen in my life. Anyway, Gary's a tattoo artist, and he's kind of a loser from what we can tell. I mean, he's just always late when he's trying to see Rachel. He's always getting caught up at work. He basically is obsessed with his work and definitely puts Rachel at a much lower priority. Rachel also does a lot for him. She put in a good word for him to get like a big, I don't know if it was New York Times or some big review. But the biggest red flag about Gary is that Rachel's best friend, Terry, hates him. When your best friend hates your man, you know something is up. And I love Terry as a character. She was so real, and like her delivery was great. There was just something very grounded about the characters, and I felt like that about everyone in this movie, but Terry was just really funny and like down to earth and like a really cool best friend character. So throughout the rest of the movie, Ethan and Rachel keep running into each other because at first Ethan comes into the bakery to take her up on her offer. He ends up helping her on a really busy night at the bakery, like free labor. Free labor is a big currency of this movie. But then he's trying to get the ring back without telling her what is going on with Gary. So they just keep running into each other and getting to know each other, having these sweet long times together. He's really obsessed with bread, and she supports his dreams of writing a new book. She lives in New York and loves New York, and he wants to move to New York. Also, Rachel bonds with Daisy, the daughter, which is a prerequisite for any love interest of a man in a Christmas movie. She bonds with her over them both losing their mothers. Another very typical thing. That was exactly what happened in Falling for Christmas as well. She bonded with the little girl over their moms passing away. This movie was full of cliches, but somehow they just made it feel real by making realistic dialogue and also just good acting and good production value. The climax comes at Rachel and Gary's engagement party. Ethan and Vanessa and Daisy show up and all the truths come out there. Rachel had found out about the ring, but they had decided to still remain engaged, and she wanted to give the ring back, so she gave it back in a piece of bread. I don't remember if it was an accident or not. It was kind of unclear. But she doesn't tell Ethan the ring is in the bread, and then they break the bread back at home during dinner, and Vanessa thinks Ethan proposed for real this time when Ethan did not mean to propose. It just fell out of the bread on accident. This part is a little convoluted. Just watch the movie. Vanessa decides to make a reservation at the bakery the bread came from, and it happens to be the same night as the engagement party, so that's why Ethan and Vanessa and Daisy show up to the bakery during Rachel and Gary's engagement party. But it's also at the engagement party where Rachel and Gary break up because she realizes like the story of how they got together wasn't totally real, and she finally sees Gary for who she is, which we, the audience, and Terry, the best friend, have seen this whole movie. Vanessa finds out what happened with the ring and realizes her proposal was kind of unintentional, and she's confused by that, and so Vanessa and Ethan go and talk back home, and that's where they break up because they realize their differences and that he's been keeping secrets about the book stuff and about the ring stuff, and that she doesn't want to move to New York and wants to stay in LA, and so they reach the conclusion to break up. Which, justice for Vanessa, because she really got the shittiest bargain. She cut short her girls trip to come to New York, a city that she hates, to spend time with Ethan and Daisy, and then Ethan blows her off the whole time to hang out with Rachel. Like, not on accident, but not on accident, and then ends up with a sham proposal. So now that our two protagonists are single again, it takes 0.2 seconds for Ethan to send Rachel some flowers with a note to say, "Meet me at our secret spot if you have feelings for me." However, the flowers and the note come at a very busy time at the bakery, so she doesn't get the note until almost too late. Of course, she has to run. So she runs across New York and catches him, and they kiss and they get together. My favorite part of this entire movie was when Ethan is trying to figure out what to do about Rachel, and Daisy's there helping him. Daisy tells him he should be with whoever's best for him and not whoever he thinks is going to be the best mom and role model for her, which, as usual in these movies, the little girl is way too emotionally intelligent for a 9-year-old or however old she is. We'll forgive it. And she says my favorite line of this whole movie, and that is, "Get your ass up and let's go." Get your ass up and go. Daisy really said, "Get your fucking ass up and work." Already Daisy was top tier little girl in Christmas movie, but with this line she became my absolute favorite moment ever of a Christmas movie, straight up. So we do see a little epilogue of 1 year later. We see them celebrating at the bakery, and I thought it was really interesting how the Tiffany sponsorship did not come back in the end. Most of the sponsorship content was in the beginning and maybe a little bit in the middle. I noticed that Terry, the best friend, she had a wife that popped up throughout the movie. Sophia, I think her name was. Terry gives her wife a piece of jewelry, but it's not a Tiffany's thing. And so immediately I was like, is Tiffany's homophobic? Why every piece of jewelry in this movie is from Tiffany's except for the one part where a woman gives her wife a piece of jewelry? That's suspicious. But then I realized right after that Ethan proposes to Rachel at the 1-year anniversary, and the engagement ring is not from Tiffany's either. So the straight couple didn't get Tiffany's at the end. So Tiffany's is off the hook for not being homophobic, though I really questioned it for a minute. And I think it's weird that they didn't bring in Tiffany's for those parts, but I kind of respect that they didn't taint this beautiful ending and happy ending with a reminder that this was all an ad. So as much as this commercial style movie was an ad, it maintained this authenticity that they really drove home in this ending. All in all, I really love this movie. I think it works as a regular rom-com. I feel like Christmas is the backdrop, but it's not the total focus of it. Like I said, most of it takes place after Christmas because Christmas morning is where like the initial conflict happens. I think it's just a comforting rom-com to go back to, even if it's not during Christmas time. But I liked that balance of it, Christmas not being so overpowering where it's just plain fantastical magic going on, but it still has that cozy holiday vibe. And something else I really appreciated about the movie was the diversity and representation it had. It had a lot of Black characters, and that feels very true to New York City, the setting. I think that diversity helped it. It added authenticity that resonated with me, and I enjoyed it a lot. So let me know what you thought of something from Tiffany's. If you watched, plan to watch, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. What are your favorite Christmas movies this season? Let me know recommendations. I have watched 2 that I've enjoyed and 1 I did not. So I will be putting out another video about a different Christmas movie, but let me know your recommendations. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out videos once or twice a week about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!